Hey, what's up everybody? What's good? It's your boy BQ. This is the Impact Lounge, #1 place to be for the Impact Wrestling fan. This is a live stream, live review. Just so you know, if you guys are tuning in, I'll probably say this a couple times throughout the stream. I'm probably not going to be able to actually see any comments you guys leave. So any comments you guys leave will be between y'all who just watch a show, who just watch Impact Wrestling Hard to Kill. Let me tell you folks, 11 out of 10, A+ show, phenomenal pay-per-view. I've been saying for a while, Hard to Kill 2021 was my favorite pay-per-view last year, despite it being an empty arena show. Yo, Hard to Kill is keeping the ball rolling. Phenomenal show. It seems like Hard to Kill, they kick off the year, and that is just the one they go all in on. I always find Rebellion to be okay. Slammiversary, again, is usually amazing. Bound for Glory is kind of okay. So it kind of seems like they go back and forth a little bit. So for you guys just tuning in, thanks for tuning into the live stream. I'm not going to be able to actually see any comments while I'm talking to you guys. So any comments will be between all of you who are watching, but this is the Impact Lounge Hard to Kill live stream. And let me throw this out there real quick. I do have a new Facebook group that I just started today. I'm being pretty selective on who I add into it, so that it's a smaller group but a very engaged group. So if you're on Facebook, you can just look up Impact Lounge Engagement Group. That is the name of the group. You can send an invite. You can get involved. Got some good people in there. It's not going to be, the people who post in there saying, what time is TNA Impact on in Zimbabwe? That kind of crap. You're not going to see any of that. All right, so that's not what we're going to do in the show. So Impact Lounge Engagement Group, check that out on Facebook. Just started it today, and let's talk Hard to Kill here real quick. Shout out to those of you joining in, hopping into the conversation. Again, let me just put this out there one more time. I may even say it a few more times throughout this. 11 out of 10, A+ pay-per-view. Now, there's no such thing as a perfect show, but this was damn close. At the end, we saw a little bit of botchy stuff here and there, but really good show. And let's get into it real quick. Let's talk about we're going to run down this card here, run down the results, and kind of give you some of my thoughts. So it kicked off with the pre-show. This was done on YouTube. I don't think anyone knew this match was coming, but we got Jake something versus Madman Fulton. So Jake was supposed to initially be in this X Division style 4-way match. They pulled him out of it. I figured Jake was the next dude released from the company. That's the first thing I thought when I saw that. But he did wrestle this match with Madman Fulton. It was cool. It was kind of a good opener to get people, people excited. I don't know who particularly cared about the match because they haven't given us any reason to care about either of the two in it. But it was cool, and it was good to see Jake something get a win because that's not something we see very often, and we definitely don't see Madman Fulton get a win. So cool opener. It did catch people off guard because they were thinking they were tuning in for the X Division 4-way match. So let's get into that though. Before I even get into this, you guys who've been following me for a while know that I have despised Impact Wrestling's commentary for years and years and years. Yo, excuse me, Tom. It's gonna take me a while to remember his last name, so I'm gonna call him Tom Phillips for the sake of argument. Beautiful. The commentary was amazing. D'Lo Brown, who I'm always saying sounds so rehearsed and fake, he sounded great. He sounded great next to Tom. And, I've been pointing out a little bit, D'Lo, as rehearsed as he sounds, usually sounded okay next to Josh Matthews, because Josh Matthews is a little more natural, even though we have our issues with Josh Matthews, don't get me wrong, but he was always natural. Matt Striker, who I'm not going to get into this too deep because I want to get into Hard to Kill, was really going through the motions with the Impact, and it just seemed him and D'Lo were just like reading off a piece of paper, and I didn't even recognize D'Lo Brown. He was so improved during this show, so it's clear that it has to do with whoever's calling the action, but the commentary was absolutely excellent. The ring announcing is a different story. It's time to take Dave Penzer out to the back of the shed and put him down. and especially at the main event before the knockouts. Whew, that was rough. Anyway, the X Division 4-way match, we had Ace Austin, Laredo Kid, Chris Bay, and Speedball Mike Bailey. So he was making his debut. People were saying, what a great signing for Impact, and this is big. AEW's trying to get him, this and this. And I was kind of like, I looked at the dude, just pictures of him. I never seen him wrestle. I just kind of saw pictures, and I was like, okay, I'll take your word for it. Didn't look like a star to me. This guy's phenomenal. And I think one of my knocks on Impact for the last half year or so, because that's finally when I realized it, I was like, man, no one has any cool finishers. No one has any innovative offense. There's multiple people on the roster who win with a clothesline, DDT, powerbomb, cutter. It's just all the same shit. I was like, where's the cool moves? Where's the innovative offense? Where's that at? Where's just the exciting finishers that we can, get pumped up for. This dude, Speedball Mike Bailey, really busted out some innovative shit. And that move he used to win the match, I don't know if that was a finisher for him. I would imagine so. I mean, 9 times out of 10, a match is going to end off a finisher. This guy can go. He brings some excitement to the X Division that we've really... I don't want to say we've been missing. It's been a pretty good X Division, but it brings the excitement that we're missing from 10 years ago X Division. You know what I mean? He would have fit back into the glory days of TNA into that X Division. That's just how good he was. And he just adds a little something different to the show. He's just very different. I would imagine he's going to feud with Ace Austin after this. I can feel that coming. I mean, that's the guy he pinned. Usually when you have these multi-man matches that are kind of random, whoever pins, whoever gets pinned and the guy who does the pinning usually kind of have some kind of feud after that. So I would imagine he's going to go at it with Ace for a little bit. Laredo Kid, he looked really good. We haven't had a reason to care about Laredo Kid at all because he just goes out there and loses. But this time he looked pretty good. I thought he looked good. Chris Bay, what can we say about Chris Bay? He's always good. But Speedball Mike Bailey got this win, and again, he just busted out moves we hadn't seen before, and it was really, really refreshing. So they did the Hard to Kill cold open after this, which was great. These guys, whoever puts these video packages together, there's a lot of potential there. We see some video packages they do that are kind of sloppy in my opinion, but this one was really good. I guess you want to call it the cold open, but anytime they've done any kind of cold open for a pay-per-view, they've always been excellent. And then Hard to Kill had its own theme song, and I don't know why they weren't busting out this theme song on the episodes of Impact, because when you're running down the card and Stryker and D'Lo are reading off the matches, they're doing it over We Own the Night, big shocker. And I was saying that it just makes it feel like you're promoting an episode of Impact if you don't change the damn music up. So they actually had a theme song. It sounded good. I would have liked to have heard that in the background on the episodes of Impact when they're running down the card, because then it just feels like you're promoting a pay-per-view, not just another episode of Impact. And for those of you just tuning in, thank you for being here. I cannot read the comments while I'm doing a stream on this particular app, so you'll just be commenting back and forth between each other. Hard to Kill, that's what we're running down right now. The X Division, not the X Division, the Ultimate X match with the knockouts. We had Chelsea Green, Tasha Steelz, Lady Frost, Alicia, Jordan Grace, and Rosemary. So we don't know. Initially, Rachel Ellering was in this match. We have no idea what's going on with that. She hasn't promoted Impact in a couple weeks. So, there's obviously the obvious birthday celebration tweet, nonsense, birthday acknowledgement thing that went out. We don't know what's going on there with that. We hope Rachel's still with the company. She's not appearing that she is at the moment, but she was pulled out of this match. She would have been good in this match, but the girls really did a good job here. I think this match was everything that we had hoped it was going to be. They didn't get too crazy with the spots. I didn't want them to go out there and try to kill each other, which was kind of a theme of this pay-per-view. Everyone was trying to kill each other. It almost seemed like that was the story they were trying to tell in just about every single match, which it worked. It's a themed pay-per-view, Hard to Kill, but the women didn't try to do anything crazy that they couldn't handle. but they did take some chances. Jordan Grace was the only one that really showed that she had the upper body strength to pull herself on the ropes. The other girls had to do I don't know what to call the word. I had to write it down because I knew I was going to forget. It was like shimmy or something like that. You know what I'm talking about. That's what the other girls had to do. Jordan had the upper body strength to actually hang from it and move. And the first time she got on there, the crowd got excited and they popped and they appreciated it. And it was really, really cool to hear that. I like a couple of the knockouts kind of had unique entrances, kind of pay-per-view style entrances, especially Tasha Steelz. Now, I called it for Chelsea Green to win this. I was sure of it. She's been so heavily featured in Matt Cardona and his main event story that I was like, dude, something's happening here. There's, Chelsea's going to win. Maybe he's going to win, but I really thought there was a bigger story out of them coming to where they were going to turn heel and all that. Obviously, I kind of overlooked that. Tom was saying on commentary, they're trying to make it. I'm totally paraphrasing here. They were talking about it being a first-time match. They're trying to turn it from first time to a commonplace. So, essentially what he's trying to say is that this was the first ever Ultimate X match for the knockouts, but it should be something that they continue doing. And I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't a yearly thing for Hard to Kill. It'll be something that makes Hard to Kill special. I hope it's not something they just kind of bust out randomly throughout the year. I don't think so, because it's become pretty rare that they do Ultimate X. And we probably are going to start seeing it a lot less with the men. That's what I'm thinking. I think this is going to be something for every Hard to Kill. The knockouts, Ultimate X, that's going to be an attraction. And one of the reasons people should watch it. There was a spot here where someone fell. I think it was Chelsea, where she was trying to carry herself across the ropes, and she fell, which I was worried was going to happen during this match. And she fell right on top of Tasha Steelz' face. And I was worried that that Tasha was done for the match. I don't know if many of you caught that. I thought she was done for the match. She fell right on her face. It was very, very dangerous. But Tasha Steelz won the match. Wasn't expecting this. I didn't see it coming. I think some people were picking Tasha to win, especially after Knockouts Knockdown, where she was, even though she didn't win, she was a star. Like she really stood out at Knockouts Knockdown. So, it makes sense for her to continue that push. I just don't know if there's much interest in her being in the title picture at the moment with Mickie. But you never know unless you try, right? I was saying the other day when they released Rohit Raju, well, you never gave a chance. You never elevated him, gave him the chance to see if he could work a main event, story. So you got to give people that opportunity sometimes. And Tasha is growing and she's improving so much. It's her time to get an opportunity at the main event. X Division title match with Steve Maclin and Trey Miguel. I will say with this pay-per-view, the majority of the matches, we didn't know who were going to win. And that's what's really fun when you're watching a wrestling pay-per-view, is that, you look up and down the card, you're like, I can't call it. I don't know who's going to win these matches. And I think with Hard to Kill, they did a very good job of that. Shout out to everyone who's just tuning into the stream. Hard to Kill, amazing pay-per-view. It was my favorite pay-per-view last year. I already know it's going to be my favorite pay-per-view this year. I can't even imagine they're going to top this thing. It was just so damn good. I got in some Facebook groups, wrestling groups, where I was like, yo, all you people who are like, I can't watch Impact, I won't watch Impact. If you can watch Monday Night Raw, if you can watch an hour of Monday Night Raw, you can watch Impact. You can stomach an episode of Impact. You can certainly watch a pay-per-view, and of course people are like, well, they burned me too many times. And it's like, yeah, but WWE underperforms on a regular basis with their pay-per-views, and you keep going back. So it's just not an excuse anymore. Impact Wrestling is killing it in the pay-per-view game. The weekly episode, I say 80% of the time is really good. Every once in a while there's a bad episode, but their pay-per-view game is really, really killing it for a wrestling company. They don't overdo it. The stories they tell are amazing. But anyway, the X Division title match, Steve Maclin, Trey Miguel. What I like about Steve Maclin being in the X Division, because a lot of people are going to say, well, he's not an X Division style guy. He brings his own style of wrestling to the X Division. He finds a way to make it work and to be unique. And we don't get many X Division one-on-one matches. They'd love to give us 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people. They like to do that on a regular basis. they had a really long-term story here with Trey Miguel and Macklin. I was pulling for Macklin. Got his shirt on. That's my guy. I'm a huge fan. I was really pulling for him, and they told a story, never been pinned, never been submitted. You know, that was a story that they kept putting out there, and they told it throughout this match. So it made it a big deal for Trey to win. Trey did, you know, it took 2 Meteoras, which I don't even think you could pin me with the Meteora. Like, that doesn't look like it hurts, but it took 2 to beat him. You know, he did the one to the outside where that was a dangerous spot, folks. That Meteora he did where Macklin, I think he hit his head. They were saying he did. They showed the replay. I couldn't quite tell. You know, so maybe they were just saying he did for the sake, you know, sake of the match. But that was a really, really dangerous spot. One thing that I really took home from this pay-per-view in general is that they got to find a way to get a little more space outside the ring. You know, if you see Ring of Honor shows, or have seen them in the past, there's lots of space to operate on the outside. You know, same with NXT and WWE and AEW. There's enough space to operate on the outside. With Impact, it's like 7 feet of space, and then there's the guard railing. And we had multiple times tonight where wrestlers went into the crowd. There was at least 3 where wrestlers did some kind of dive and they went into the crowd. That spot was really dangerous. There was, you know, I think Mickie James, when she jumped on Deonna at one point, did a Des press out there. When Alicia Edwards did her dive, you know, I mean, there's just this little bit of room to operate. It's very, very dangerous. Macklin could have really hit his head on this. So they got to do something about that, folks. They really do. But Trey took 2 Meteoras. He got the win, and it kept Macklin strong. You know, even though he lost, his undefeated streak came to an end. It was very EC3-esque, even though EC3 was undefeated a lot longer. They're always never been pinned, never submitted. Like, you know, it was a little EC3-esque the way they were, you know, presenting the dude, but he still came off strong. Had it just took 1 Meteora to pin him in the ring, then he would have just, you know, just whatever. But the fact that it took 2 and Trey having to hit the brainbuster and all that, it kept the story going. ROH title match was after this. Jonathan Gresham and Chris Sabin. Ian Riccaboni came and did a commentary. So for those of you who have heard me over the years complain about Impact Wrestling's commentary, I hope that with tonight's show, Haffigan, is that Tom? Like I said, I keep wanting to call him Tom Phillips because that's all I know him as. But him and Ian, if you're listening to them, like, that is commentary. That is good commentary. That is passionate. That is telling a story. That is painting a picture. That is having energy and adding something to the match. I hope you guys really listening to it this time. We're like, okay, this is what BQ's been talking about this whole time. Because Stryker last year, I did this stream last year for Hard to Kill. I think it was the first time D'Lo and Stryker did commentary together. And I was singing their praises. I was like, thank God, they sound great. And then little by little, Stryker just started sounding really, really bad. I hope you guys really heard the commentary in this show and like, that's what commentary is supposed to sound like. So I was super jazzed, super impressed with it. But Ian Riccaboni, I've been telling you guys, this dude is excellent. And he showed why. He delivered. And this match here, Jonathan Gresham and Chris Sabin, was killer. I haven't watched a whole lot of Jonathan Gresham because I didn't really watch a lot of Ring of Honor. I know he did TNA pay-per-view back in the days and said, I'll be back. I promise I'll be back. That's his promo. And, you know, here he is. But the RH title, I think, is beautiful. I think it's a great looking belt. And Chris Sabin he's one of the dudes on the roster, like, you cannot use him for a month and then you just put him in an angle and he just puts on this like great match and it just works, you know. You just put him in there. There's a little bit of story because Chris Sabin actually earned a title shot back in 2018, I believe they said. And I've seen enough of Jonathan Gresham. I have to say I've seen a whole lot. I've seen a handful of matches and he's always been really impressive, really good from what I saw. And this guy's really going to carry that banner, and I think he's going to hold that title for a long time. But they went out there and they tried to kill each other in this match. I mean, this was just this was wrestling, and it was so, it was a nice break in the middle of this show to get the pure rules match, which is, you only get 3 rope breaks. You cannot do closed fist punches to the face. You get 1, and then the second one is a disqualification and you lose, and then you got to do the code of honor. So it gave us those rules. Just gave us something different. It broke things up a little bit instead of just having a match, So the pure rules, just adding that to an Impact show was something very, very different. The way they put this card together from top to bottom, the matches were laid out perfectly. And it might have been a blessing in disguise that we didn't get that Knockouts tag team match with the influence and the inspiration, because as much as I like those teams, let's be real with ourselves. The match they would have had, I think, would have stood out like a green hat with an orange bill compared to everything else we saw. Everything was so good on this show. How can you... It's just really, really hard to imagine that Knockouts tag team match, which would have been, maybe a little sloppy, maybe a little botchy here and there. Again, I like all the girls involved. I really, really do. But I think it was a blessing in disguise that this wasn't on the show, because I think it would have really disrupted the flow of everything. Bobby Cruz did the ring announcing for this ROH title match. And that's ring announcing. Like, that guy sounds great. Again, it's time to take David Penzer out to the back of the shed, put him out of his misery. He sounded good for the first couple matches, and then it's almost like he forgets what he's going to say. In the main event, he brought a piece of paper with him. It wasn't even like a card, like professional, like it was a loose leaf piece of paper. If you're making all these changes to the commentary and the social media team, like, let's get Melissa Santos out there. Let's stop playing around with the ring announcing. But everyone knew Jonathan Gresham was going to win this match, but it didn't matter because it was one of the ones you really wanted to see, despite knowing there was a bee's dick chance of Chris Sabin actually winning this thing. But they put on a great show, man. That match right there. Whew. Yeah, I just wrote in my notes like, wow, Jonah versus Josh Alexander, this was one of the ones people were looking forward to. No one had a clue who was going to win, because it's like, okay, this is Jonah's Impact pay-per-view debut. He's not really signed with the company, but he's a big deal. He's a monster, and he's a great big man. That splash he does off the top rope is killer. He looks like he actually squashes. So this isn't no like Tamika Snuka top rope splash, land on your knees and barely hit this guy just flattens you. That jumping senton he does as well. The only thing I would have done with this story is I would have kept Josh Alexander completely off TV since Turning Point, since he got attacked. I wouldn't have had him show up this episode of Impact with the tape, the gimmick taped ribs and all that. I really would have told a story that, this motherfucker might not even make it to Hard to Kill. We don't even know if he's going to be cleared, to show up. That's the story I would have told, and I would have tried to do some kind of storytelling with his wife on screen and Jonah. You know what I mean? As much as I don't like resorting to the girlfriend wife stories, with something like this it would have worked because Josh was off the screen. But anyway, these two guys really, really delivered. They had audio issues in this match, and at first I thought it was me. I was watching on Fight TV on the app. I kept shutting it off. I kept restarting. I was like, what the hell's going on here? I was mad at my phone, and then I checked the Fight TV chat, which I usually try to avoid at all costs. I hate chats while you're watching a wrestling show. And then I saw excuse me, folks. I saw other people saying they were having audio issues. All good. At one point, the feed completely cut out, so it wouldn't be an Impact stream or live show without some kind of audio or visual issues. Before I get back to Josh and Jonah, though, the one small complaint I had about this show was the cameraman missed a lot of shit. There was moves in the ring, outside the ring, where they completely missed the impact of the actual move. Or the camera was too high, or it was somewhere else. Like it was really weird. I haven't seen them miss that many spots in a long time. The last time I can remember them missing that many was the debut on Pop TV, where I clearly remember that night, and they just missed so much, and I'm just like, what are these guys doing? So that happened quite a bit tonight. They missed the impact of a lot of moves. Didn't have good angles on stuff. But that's all minute because this was an amazing pay-per-view. But these guys really went at it, and I thought Jonah, he came off like a believable monster. He has in his time at Impact. I don't know how much time he's going to be around. They kind of been talking, well, he wants a shot at the world title. They said that about Christopher Daniels too, and we haven't seen him since. So I don't know if he's going to be around again. I don't know if we're ever going to see him on Impact Television again. Who the hell knows? But he had a great program with Josh Alexander. Great match. And I never saw him in NXT because I didn't used to watch NXT. I kind of get into it a little bit more now. But he's a great big man. Josh Alexander continues to put on amazing matches. He eventually won with a tap out. In wrestling these days, it's a little hard to get submission finishers over because no one seems to ever tap. Everyone always gets to the ropes. So whenever you put on the ankle lock or whatever, it has to be a super ankle lock for the person to tap. And Josh didn't do anything weird where he stood up like Kurt Angle or nothing like that. I think he actually laid down and got into it more, and he eventually got that tap out on Jonah. Jonah was really selling it on his face. So great win for Josh. We have to believe he's going to start working towards the program with Moose. They did a good job of letting Moose have some run before they got into it with Josh Alexander right away, because had Josh just challenged right away, either Moose would have just dropped the title right away, or Josh Alexander would have lost and had a one-day title reign, and it would have been a complete mess, So they're doing a really good job with it. So after this was a Hardcore War. Now, when they initially told us Hardcore War was coming, I was like, oh, here's our X Division, our Hardcore shit show match. I thought Tommy Dreamer was going to come and replace Rich Swann. I was not looking forward to it initially. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. They announced, and they didn't announce it, but in the last episode of Impact Dark, well, here's the rules to Hardcore War. And I'm sure some of you knew what Hardcore War was, but everyone who I spoke to personally had no clue that these were the rules of the match. Everyone was just expecting 5-on-5 tag team match with weapons. And I want to say W. Morrissey's debut match with Violent by Design, I almost want to say it was possibly a hardcore. I don't remember if it was a Hardcore War or not, but I do feel like they did have one of those matches on TV last year. I just didn't recall the rules. But basically it was, a gauntlet style match. They all came down with a weapon, which is good. That's how you should do it. And so this was Eddie Edwards, Willie Mack, Rich Swann, Rhino, and Heath versus Violent by Design and the Good Brothers. So they cut a promo before this that reminded me, for those of you familiar with the 1980s Survivor Series and everything, a little bit of early 90s, those like promos they used to have backstage with Mean Gene Okerlund, that's what this sounded like. I thought Eddie sounded really good. Eddie is usually super mushmouth with his promos, and he was clear. We could understand him. He had passion. He had fire. Rhino had a lot of fire. Swann and Willie Mack sounded good. Like, Heath didn't speak, but it was a good backstage promo for the match. And I found myself really invested into something that I initially didn't care about. I'm not a Good Brothers fan. I'm not a Violent by Design fan. I'm a huge Rich Swann fan. Rhino, so they're not necessarily guys that I love in this match. But once I understood what the format and the rules was, I was like, okay, cool. Sign me up for this. And again, the placement was good where they had the match. It broke everything up really, really nicely. But the orders, they came down. Diener came down with a trash can. Rich Swann came with a chair. I can't read my own writing. Oh, Anderson came with a golf club, which was different. I'm always talking about don't bring the stop signs and the cookie sheets and all that shit. We saw some new weapons here, so I can appreciate that. He brought a golf club, a driver, which was kind of funny, actually. Willie Mack brought an axe handle, so that was different. And, they said, when did this become Anchorman 2? So, if you're not, if you're not familiar with the Anchorman, the fights on Anchorman, you probably don't understand the joke, but, I was expecting someone to come down with a grenade next. Gallows came down with chain. I have some shitty writing here, so I'm sorry, folks. I can't read who came out after him, so it had to be one of the good guys. That doesn't say Rhino, it doesn't say Swann, doesn't say... Okay, Eddie, that's what it says, Eddie. So he came down with Kenny. EY came down with 2 trash can lids, so that was really, really random. 2 trash can lids, okay. And then Heath came down. Heath came down. I was like, why doesn't he have a weapon? This fool busted out the Fuji powder, took out a couple dudes with it. I thought that was like really, really excellent. And then he had a pipe. So I guess he had multiple weapons. Maybe he stole Joe Doring's, because when Joe Doring came out, he had nothing. They said he was the weapon. And then Rhino came in with a chain also, which was odd because Gallows came out with a chain earlier. But they did a great job of trying. Again, there was the theme of this pay-per-view is that they were actually trying to kill each other to win a match. They basically had to kill every single match you look at on this card. On the main card was pretty much having to kill your opponent to eventually get that win. The stories were all totally different. They weren't, they didn't all have gimmicks and things of that nature, but it fit a theme, and they just, wow, they did a good job. This is Hard to Kill, folks. For those of you tuning in, 11 out of 10. This pay-per-view was phenomenal. I keep saying that word, but I don't know how else to explain this to you guys. This was so good. And then after the match, I'm thinking at the time, okay, Heath gets the pin, Rhino hits the gore, which I don't really care for, because it's one of those moves. Multiple people use it. Moose won with it. Rhino wins with it. I'm trying to think if anyone else hit a spear. Rosemary hit a spear at one point. So it's one of their moves they use a whole lot. I don't care for. But anyway, neither here nor there. With Heath and Rhino getting that win, I started telling myself, okay, well, these are the new contenders for the tag team titles. Because if you think back when Heath got hurt, the story was likely that he was supposed to win the Call Your Shot gauntlet, that him and Rhino were going to wrestle for the tag team championships, probably win them. He got hurt. They had the stipulation, so Rhino was able to win. He cashed it in. They won, so, stayed kind of true to the story. So I was telling myself, okay, Rhino and Heath are probably going to be the next contenders, and they'll probably be the ones that beat the Good Brothers. That's no shit, everything going on in my head. Then out of nowhere, we get an attack. It's OGK, which is, Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. And then I was like, well, whose uncle is out there? And it's this dude, Vincent. I can't say I'm familiar with him at all. I'm sure many of you are. I had no clue who the hell he was. He came out, and then, I was like, okay, I'm sure there's going to be one more person. And then they're like, oh my God, is that him? And it's PCO, who's like 90. But I don't know. I guess he was a big deal at Ring of Honor. I know he won the world title at one point. So we don't know the status of these guys. We don't know if they're signed. They're clearly going to be around for a little bit. I would say OGK, there's probably a better chance they're signed than the other two. But maybe they're going to be around. Maybe they're signed. Who knows? But they kind of did a little invasion angle. D'Lo was like, is this some kind of ROH invasion? We have to be very careful with those words because, once upon a time in the early 2000s, there was an invasion. WCW and ECW invading WWF. People have been wanting to see an invasion ever since. Not the majority. A majority are like, yo, that only worked once. But there's some people who want to see something like that again. That's kind of what made it look like here. I don't think that's where they're going. I don't think we're going to see like multiple Ring of Honor guys come and try to overtake Impact. I don't think that's what's going to happen at all. But, they lay these guys out after the match. It was really well done because it wasn't just they came and hit a couple moves and took off. Like, they leveled the damn ring. They destroyed these guys. It was really interesting. I'm glad to see Mike Bennett back. I'm a fan of his. And then they bring Maria Kanellis out. I don't know where they came from. They almost made it look like she was going to come in and do a move or talk or something like that. But the four of them stood there at the end. Made it look like they got a little thing going. Maybe a little bit of a stable. I don't know. So when I went from saying, okay, Heath and Rhino, we're going to probably challenge for the titles next. Now I'm like, well, no, probably this group of, probably not so much Eddie, but probably Swan and Mac and Heath and Rhino, they're probably going to go at it with these dudes here. So it's going to be we're fucking here to stay. I didn't mean to keep cursing that many times in a row. He said, we're fucking here to stay. Then he held up the Impact Tag Team belt that was there and said, we'll be back for these, or something along those lines. So you have to believe OJK's going to be there for a while. So Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, and then they were with somebody's uncle and PCO, also somebody's uncle. At this point, I tweeted out, I said, yo, we got 2 matches left. Safe to say this is an 11 out of 10. I thought after the Hardcore War, I thought things went down a little bit, but the pay-per-view overall was so damn good that, I don't think it hurt it by any stretch of the imagination. So we got Morrissey, Matt Cardona, and Moose, the world champion. I think people were up in the air with who was going to win this thing, because I think depending on what side of the story you focused on, there's a lot of people who are like, no, it looks like the story is Cardona is going to win. Some people are like, yeah, it looks like it's going to be Morrissey. They didn't really make it seem like Moose was going to win this thing, but common sense was he was going to win. You can't have Moose do all these amazing things in a company, bust his ass pretty much more than anybody, and then have him just have a throwaway title run, So I think most people probably thought Moose was going to win, but I thought it was still kind of unpredictable. Like, I don't know what they're going to do. So even though they worked really, really hard, I thought the match got a little overbooked. We got 2 ref bumps. We didn't just get 1 ref bump. We got 2. So it was a little overbooked. But they did a good job with Cardona getting some near pins that made it look like he was going to win. There was a time where Moose pulled the ref out of the ring. I didn't see Moose there. I thought the match was over. I thought Cardona had it. I didn't know that Morrissey's finish was called the BQE, so now I've heard BQ on Impact Wrestling, so that's pretty cool. They made it sound like E probably stands for Express, so I'm trying to think where he's from and what the BQ could possibly stand for. I know it's not named after myself, so I'm curious. So if anybody knows, hit me up with that. Again, I can't read the comments during the stream, so my apologies to you guys. So hopefully you're chatting with one another. But, this match, it was good. It was a step down from everything else on the card, and I kind of expected that would be. And if you're just tuning in, I made a comment earlier. It was probably a blessing in disguise that we didn't get that Knockouts tag team match, because I don't think it would have been as good as everything else that we saw on here. I think it would have been, a good couple notches below, and that would have hurt. I don't say it would have hurt the pay-per-view, but it would have just been, it would just stood out in the middle of this show. But Moose got the win. It took multiple ref bumps, again, just like really, really overbooked at the end. And it almost seems like they're going to continue the Cardona and Moose program. But then, okay, someone just messaged me, BQE. Oh, this is Lewis. Shout out to Lewis. It's the Brooklyn Queens Expressway. All right, so I figured it was something like that. I thought he was from Queens or that general area. But yeah, what I was saying was it almost seems like Cardona and Moose are still going to have an angle going forward just because of the way this played out. But it was just, it was just overbooked with Chelsea coming out. And we had other times in the show, Ray Wald and Havoc and Savannah Evans, all these people coming out, there was a lot of double middle finger fuck yous on this show where it got a little excessive at one point. I mean, I think it happened like 4 times on the show, but Moose wins. He's still your world champion. You have to believe he's going to move forward pretty soon here to an angle with Josh Alexander. I mean, you can't keep Alexander from the title that long. So main event here, Deonna Purrazzo, Mickie James, and it was a Texas death match. So I don't know if any of you guys knew this was going to be the main event. I didn't know. And I remember Slammiversary a couple years ago where the main event ended up being Sami Callihan versus Tessa Blanchard. And I'm like, why didn't you market that as the main event? Like, you have a woman wrestling for the men's title, and then you just decide at the last minute it's the main event. And that's kind of how this was too. I think most people thought the Moose match, the 3-way, was going to be the main event. And when it was the Knockouts, it was a Texas death match, like that should have been part of the promotion and marketing was, hey, the Knockouts are main eventing the show. Because, if this was WWE and they were main eventing any kind of pay-per-view with their women, they would just beat it down your throats. And then Impact would remind you, Impact Twitter would then remind you that their knockouts have been main eventing shows. But when their knockouts actually main event the shows, like, they don't make it a big deal. I get it because it's a little bit of a commonplace because they've done it so much and they want it to be, they want the whole equality thing, but you got to know what the main event is of a pay-per-view. Like, that's just part of the promotion. You just have to let people know what that is. So this match, I was really concerned with it at first that it was going to be the stop signs and baking sheets. I know I say that all the time, and Impact does that so much, the street fights and the no DQ and the no rules and hardcore rules and all that shit, that it just becomes like, it's just too monotonous and it's not special anymore. So had they just not done that as often as they did last year, I think the Hardcore War excuse me, and the Texas Deathmatch would have been even more impactful watching as viewers, because it would have just been different. But unfortunately, they just do so much of this stuff that, it's hard for it to feel too special. But I like this match a lot better than I liked their match of Bound for Glory. Now, granted, this was a gimmick match and that was a regular match, but people really liked their Bound for Glory match. I didn't think it was as good as people said it was, and maybe it's one of those things I need to watch it again. I think I just expected something out of it than what we ended up getting. I think I just expected something different or something more, but I didn't love it the way most people did. This match here, they had some botchy moments, but it's all good. Both women worked really hard. They both drew color, like they were both bleeding, and that's when it hit me, what I've said a couple times throughout the stream. It's like, the theme of this pay-per-view is that you have to basically kill your opponent to win. That's how so many of the matches were. Mickie James came down to the ring at first, and I was like, what the hell is she wearing? And I was really shocked she was wrestling like that, because that looked really dangerous to me. But this match right here, I had no clue who's gonna win, because they swerved us hardcore on this hardcore country, right? They swerved us big time. At first, Deonna was like, she showed up at the Ring of Honor show. She said, we're gonna put all the titles on the line, Knockouts title versus the Ring of Honor women's title, and winner take all. So at that point, everyone's like, well, they just spoiled who was gonna win. Everyone's like, well, of course Deonna's gonna win. And maybe that's one of the reasons they didn't tell us it was the last match, because they really wanted it to be unpredictable who was going to win it. Roxy was there in the front row, so it seems like the story is that Deonna's going to win. But then they announced Mickie James for the Royal Rumble, and then we're like, well, Impact Wrestling wants her to be the Knockouts champion at the Royal Rumble, but 2 years ago they wouldn't let Brian Cage wrestle in the AEW Casino Battle Royal because he was the world champion and they didn't want him to lose. Mickie James is not going to win the Royal Rumble, so I was thinking, okay, I still think Deonna's going to win. That's what was going on in my head. But by announcing the day before, well, Mickie James is going to be in the Royal Rumble, well then, damn, now we're sitting here like, who the hell's going to win this match? Maybe on Twitter they did. I don't know. But maybe on Twitter, Impact was like, hey, this is going to be the main event tonight. I just didn't see it. Maybe some of you guys did. Maybe they did it. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say they didn't do it. But once that Mickie James news came out, that's good marketing. That's social media marketing, where next year, like, hey, this has been elevated to the main event of the show. I mean, that's how you do it. Common sense shit. So, they had some of the thumbtack spots and the chairs and the tables. They did all the stuff we always see, but this was really good for a women's hardcore match. They don't do it with the women too much anymore. They did the Monsters Ball at Knockouts Knockdown, which was really good. I can't say I'm super familiar with Texas Deathmatch rules. I know AEW did one a few months ago, and I didn't see it because I missed that episode, but I know Jim Cornette was saying that they didn't do the real Texas Deathmatch rules, that they pretty much just did a last man standing match. Where this one was, it sounded like it was the Texas Deathmatch rules because you had to pin or submit your opponent. I was actually really surprised at the beginning of the match where she rolled Deonna up and got a pin. I was like, why is he counting? I thought they had a botch there, but that was part of the rules, so I get it. It makes a lot of sense. And then Mickie James ends up winning this thing. So to my calculation, we had no title changes tonight, which is wild for a pay-per-view. There's always at least one. And if the inspiration was on the show versus the influence, I don't think the influence was going to win. So, you know, that's there's no rule saying there has to be a title change every pay-per-view, but it's very rare that you see one without at least one title change. And we didn't get one. But Hard to Kill was so good, folks. I almost want to watch it again. I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't, you know, get distracted easily and start doing something else. At one point, my fiance she was sitting next to me and she got up and took a shower. I had no clue she even left the room. I was so just invested in the program and the pay-per-view in general from just top to bottom. They really delivered on this one, folks. So that's pretty much all I got for you guys tonight. Just great pay-per-view top to bottom, A+ show. Thanks for checking me out. Myself and TW will probably do some kind of, you know, review between the two of us after we've had a couple days to sit on it. But Impact Wrestling, you did it. I always say I'm going to say when it's bad, I'm going to say when it's good, and I'm going to mean it. I mean it. This show was an A+. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. I'm excited for what's to come in 2002 for Impact. I really did. I really am. There was a lot of 2020, 2021 stuff that I just wasn't feeling, but Turning Point, ever since that point, Turning Point, I'm like, yo, this company is moving in a great direction. So we just want to see the viewership and all those things get up. We want to see social media up. We want to see them do new and innovative things. You know, we'll see how that is. Rebellion is the next pay-per-view. I didn't think Rebellion was that good last year. I thought it was just okay. You know, came off more like an Impact special than a pay-per-view in my opinion. But when they promoted it, they like last time when they had the Kenny Omega little star, whatever, I think is this logo, they had a question mark this time. So they're letting us know, you know, something cool is going to happen, something big is going to happen here. So, but again, great show, commentary, just, so excited. So thanks for checking me out, folks. This is the Impact Lounge, #1 place to be for the Impact Wrestling fan. I'm sure there's some other podcasters out there that are streaming, so you can check them out, but that's going to do it for me tonight. I am your boy BQ. This is a new app for me, so I hope I know how to turn this off, but I'm out. Peace.